Husky 2G CAN bus training, preventive maintenance checks and services, or PMCS. Objectives: at the conclusion of this class and equipped with the required documentation and equipment, you will be able to perform PMCS on the Husky 2G and perform PMCS on the Red Pack if equipped. Safety: when performing PMCS or other routine checks, observe all warnings and cautions. A list of warnings is located in the warning summary of each of the workshop repair manual and the Husky 2G operator manual. Familiarize yourself with the warning and cautions before performing maintenance or work on the Husky 2G. Safety is paramount. A warning means personnel could be injured. Caution means equipment could be damaged. Warning: high voltage is used. Husky 2G utilizes a 24-volt DC electrical system. Care must be taken and caution must be exercised when performing work on or around areas where electrical systems could be a factor. Familiarize yourself with the vehicle before performing maintenance or work on the Husky 2G. Again, always refer to your technical manuals. You have 5 levels of operator PMCS. We're going to go through each one of these levels. You have before operation, or B. PMCS must be completed before you operate or use the equipment for its intended use. You have during, or D. PMCS must be performed during the operation or using the equipment for its intended mission, as long as the checks and services are safe for the operator to perform and do not interfere with the mission. There could be instances where you will do a before and during PMCS. You have after operation, or A. PMCS must be performed immediately after operation of the equipment. Again, this is also per command policy and as the mission dictates. You have weekly, or W. PMCS must be performed at least once per week. If the equipment has not been used within a week's interval, then perform weekly PMCS before you operate the vehicle. For example, if the vehicle has not been used for about 3 weeks, you'll want to make sure you perform your before operation of the vehicle and also your weekly PMCS. You're going to want to put everything together. Monthly, M. PMCS must be performed at least once per month and will include a complete inventory of the equipment. If the equipment has not been used within months interval, perform an operation PMCS along with the routine monthly maintenance. PMCS definitions. You have leak classification. Throughout your PMCS, you will find a lot of different levels of leaks. You have a class 1 leak, seepage of fluid, as indicated by wetness or discoloration, not great enough to form drops. You'll see wetness around seals, around flanges, and so forth, but it's not strong enough to create a drop. Class 2 leak, leakage of fluid great enough to form drops, but not enough to cause drops to drip from the item being checked. For example, you'll have a drop of fluid just hanging from a certain part, but nothing has fallen down yet. Class 3 leak is leakage of fluid great enough to form drops. Checked equipment is classified as not mission ready if a Class 3 leak exists. A Class 3 leak, that drop is actually formed enough to where it actually fell to the ground or a surface below it. That drop actually dripped. Continue on, we have leakage. Component damage caused when material has been dissolved or eaten away, especially by chemical action. Seals, gaskets, and so forth will fall under leakage. Rust. Rust is defined as any various scaling or powdery reddish brown, reddish yellow materials produced by oxidation of iron and iron-coated materials in presence of water. Deterioration is defined as any condition that causes material to be impaired or lessens the quality or value of the material. You have certain items that will deteriorate. For example, your wire harnesses, the sheathing, some of the hoses may deteriorate depending on the sun exposure and weather exposures. Cracking. Cracking is defined when materials have split or broken either completely or partially. One area that you always want to look for the cracking is on the tires. The tires, after so long, they will begin to crack a little bit. Maintenance procedures, your routine check. You want to clean, dust, and wash every component. Check for loose or chipped paint. Check for damage or frayed cables or wiring. Storing items not in use. If there's certain items that you no longer use, for example, your technical manuals, if you don't want to have them inside the vehicle, make sure you store them in the proper area. Check for loose nuts, bolts, and screws that are not listed in the PMCS. For example, if you have a specific item that you're looking for, however, you notice that there's a loose bolt or there's something missing, you want to be cognitive of everything that's around that area you're checking. Continuous operation. If the equipment is a continuous operation, check and service those items that can be checked and serviced without disrupting vehicle operation. Form a complete list of active checks and services when the equipment is not in use. For example, as you're driving the vehicle, monitor your gauges, monitor your lights, check certain things that are inside there while you're driving the vehicle. This will help you perform your after PMCS and also gives you information about how the vehicle is operating. Defects and deficiencies. A defect or deficiency that cannot be corrected must be reported to the hired maintenance personnel. If you find an item on there that you cannot fix or repair, you need to notify your unit maintenance. Notify the maintenance personnel. They'll be able to fix the part, repair the part, or replace it. Inspection. As you're inspecting, you want to inspect bolts, clamps, screws, and nuts for looseness. Inspect chip paint, bare metal, rust or corrosion around bolts and screw heads or around nuts. If you notice that you have chip paint or rust around the head of a bolt or where it mounts in, that bolt could be loose and causing that rust to form. Lubricate and repair areas noted as necessary. If tools are not available, notify unit maintenance. If you need a specific tool to be able to perform a task and you don't have that tool, it's missing from your red pack, it's missing from your basic issue items, notify your unit maintenance. They should be able to come out there and help you with that. Especially continued welds. Some components of equipment are welded. To inspect for welds, look for chip paint, rust, cracks, and gaps. The Husky V-hull is all welded together. The front and rear wheel modules, the frame is welded. As you're inspecting this, if you see an area that looks like it's welded together, if you notice any of these items, notify your maintenance personnel and have them come look at it. Electrical wires, tighten loose connectors and harnesses. To inspect wiring, look for cracked welding, broken wiring, insulation damage, bare wires, and broken connectors. Hoses and fluid lines, tighten loose fittings. To inspect hoses and fluid lines, look for wear, damage, leaks is always a big one. Ensure clamps and fittings are tight. Wet spots indicate a leak. If a stain by a fitting or a connector can also mean a leak. One thing that you want to make sure you check also is all of your pneumatic lines. You're not going to be able to see an air leak. However, check that connection to make sure it's tight. If any of the above conditions are observed, notify unit maintenance. Within your PMCS work packages, you have a PMCS table. We're going to go through each one of the columns. Column 1 is your item number. The item number identifies the checks and services in the order they are to be performed. Column 2 gives you your interval. Interval provides the frequency of the checks and services should be performed. The interval code for operator maintenance, again, are B for before, D for during, A after, W weekly, M monthly. Column 3, item to be checked or serviced, identifies the section of the system to be inspected, checked, or serviced. For example, you'll be told to check the rear bumper, the left side vehicle hull. Column 4 is our procedure, provides the steps for performing the checks and services. This is where they'll tell you what to look for. You will check for looseness, you will check for leaks, you'll check for cracks. And the final column, column 5, is equipment not ready, available if. This contains the criteria that will render the system incapable of performing its primary mission. Follow standard operating procedures for maintaining equipment for reporting equipment failures. This column will be left blank if the associated equipment will not cause the equipment to be incapable of performing its primary mission. For example, If you have a class 3 fluid leak, it will state in column 5, equipment not ready available if any class 3 leak. If something is in there that tells you to inspect your reflectors and there's no item listed in column 5, that means if you are missing a reflector, it becomes a deficiency and can be repaired, but it will not impact the readiness of the vehicle. If a check or service procedure was performed and the condition in this column is met, do not operate the equipment. If anything is listed inside that meets the criteria in column 5, do not operate the vehicle. End of task. Refer to Husky G suite of manuals for additional information and procedures.